Giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash. That is saying, giving all praises to the Most High God, the Father, the God of the Bible, in the name of his Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, and in the name of the Holy Spirit, which is in all believers of the gospel of Yahweh Shai, Mashiach's death, burial, and resurrection, which is our righteousness, all right? So we're going to finish this off, man, this last Feast of Tabernacles lesson. It's coming a little bit, it's actually been sunset, so we're actually going past to about an hour after the Feast of Tabernacles ended, but we're going to go ahead and complete this day seven lesson, all right, dealing with the end of the feast days. All right. So we got my daughter crying in the background, but it's all good. We're going to get this lesson done. All right. Hebrews 9, verse 1. Now, the first covenant had regulations for worship and also an earthly sanctuary. All right. So you see how they built up that tabernacle? A tabernacle was prepared, and its first rooms were the lampstand, the table, and the consecrated bread. This was called the holy place, and this is all in the Old Testament if you look into it. Behind the second curtain was a room called the most holy place, containing the golden altar of incense and the gold-covered ark of the covenant. Inside the ark were the gold jar of manna, Aaron's staff that had budded, and the stone tablets of the covenant. Above the ark were the cherubim of glory overshadowing the mercy seat. But we cannot discuss these things in detail now because he's trying to get to a point. When everything had been prepared in this way, the priests entered regularly into the first room to perform their sacred duties. But only the high priest entered the second room, and then only once a year, and never without blood, which he offered for himself and for the sins the people had committed in ignorance. By this arrangement, the Holy Spirit was showing that the way into the most holy place had not yet been disclosed as long as the first tabernacle was still standing. See, we see this Feast of Tabernacles is a foreshadowing of things to come, just like many things in the Old Testament, right? It is an illustration for the present time because the gifts and sacrifices being offered when able to cleanse the conscience of the worshiper. Right. See, so when that new covenant gets all the way set through and Yahweh Shai returns, we're going to be programmed to do good and never sin. We're going to have the laws inscribed in our hearts and our minds. All right. They consist only in food and drink and special washings, external regulations imposed until the time of reform. But when Hamashiach, that is translated as Christ, but when Hamashiach came as high priest of the good things that have come, he went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle that is not made by hands and is not a part of this creation. He did not enter by the blood of goats and calves, but he entered the most holy place once for all by his own blood, thus securing eternal redemption. All right, so see, by that blood, we are redeemed. All right, we are made holy by his blood, not by the letter. All right. For if the blood of goats and bulls and the ashes of a heifer sprinkled, right? Because remember, this is going back to the Old Testament law, right? How they had to deal with these things. Okay, it was many let's just say commandments that needed to be done. Okay, there was a way that things had to be done. You couldn't just do it your own way, right? Which was very important for Yahweh Shai to come and give us righteousness through his blood. All right. Of a heifer sprinkled on those who are ceremonially unclean, sanctify them that their bodies are clean. How much more will the blood of Hamashiach, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself unblemished to God, purify our consciences from works of death, so that we may serve the living God. Therefore, Mashiach is the mediator of a new covenant, so that those who are called may receive the promised eternal inheritance, now that he has died to redeem them from the transgressions committed under the first covenant. All right, so he died to redeem us from the transgression committed under the first covenant, meaning he died to redeem us from the sins that we committed in the law of God, in the law of Moses. All right. In the case of a will, it is necessary to establish the death of the one who made it, because a will does not take effect until the one who made it has died. It cannot be executed while he is still alive. That is why even the first covenant was not put into effect without blood. For when Moses had proclaimed every commandment of the law to all the people, he took the blood of calves and goats, along with water, scarlet wool, and hyssop, and sprinkled the scroll and all the people, saying, "This is the blood of the covenant which God has commanded you to keep." In the same way, he sprinkled with blood the tabernacle and all the vessels used in worship, according to the law. In fact, nearly everything must be purified with blood, and without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. That's big. That's why Yahweh had to shed his blood for us, the Son of God. All right? So it was necessary for the copies of the heavenly things to be purified with these sacrifices. All right, as you see throughout the whole Bible, sacrifices are very, very important, right? Because with that, there is no forgiveness of sins, right? Without, as we've seen, without the shedding of blood. That's a very serious thing to God. All right. It led to a lot of, all throughout the Old Testament, as you see, rams, lambs.